Amsterdam in an unprecedented landing. BTS's Jin, the oldest member of global music group BTS, has officially set foot in the city of Amsterdam as part of a global tour series titled Run Seekjin EP Tour. But what happened at Schiphol Airport that night was not just the arrival of a star. It was an emotional outburst that thrilled the thousands of people who had been waiting for him since the morning, and became a real proof that the euphoria for Jin was not just an Asian phenomenon, but had penetrated into the heart of Europe. Why are thousands of people willing to cram in the cold Dutch night air for the sake of one name? Seekjin? Why did Amsterdam, a city far removed from South Korea's K-pop scene, explode like a cultural epicenter as soon as Jin stepped off the plane? The question not only confused music observers, but provoked an international public discussion. This phenomenon is not just an ordinary concert, it is a social event that cannot be ruled out. At exactly 1943 local time, the Schiphol International Terminal suddenly turned into a sea of purple. Banners reading, "Run with Jin," "Amsterdam loves Seekjin," and "Moon has landed," adorned each side of the security fence. Hysterical cries, incessant cheers, and chanting of the song, "Epiphany," by the mass of spectators broke the silence as the doors of the aircraft opened. Jin, wearing a long black jacket and a gray hat, only waved his hand for a moment. But that moment was enough to create a wave of hysteria that seemed to know no time limits. HITV, the agency that houses Jin, confirmed that Amsterdam is an important point in the Run Seekjin EP tour, as it became a symbol of the beginning of the emotional wave of this tour to Europe. Jin's presence here is not just about the music, but about the personal relationship between the artist and the global public who have waited more than 18 months since Jin went on hiatus due to military service, a HYB spokesperson said. Surprisingly, the reaction of the Amsterdam audience exceeded even the expectations of the organizers. Airport security noted that more than 8,200 people had gathered just to welcome Jin's arrival, a number that beat previous celebrations by many of the world's public figures. This crowd consisted not only of local fans, but also armies from neighboring countries such as Belgium, Germany, France, and even Sweden, who were willing to travel by land and air to watch the seconds Jin set foot in Europe. But it wasn't just the presence of the genie that shook Amsterdam. His exclusive appearance the next day in an outdoor location kept secret until the last minute actually adds a dramatic feel to the whole set. When Jin finally appeared in the middle of the venue, which was designed like an open-air art space with a crescent-shaped stage, the audience couldn't hide their surprise. He performed two special songs, Super Tuna and The Astronaut, in a live version that was emotionally repackaged and more mature than ever. His voice, more mature and heavier than usual, proves that Jin is not just a visual from BTS, but a vocalist who is entering a new chapter of his career. Amsterdam, I've waited to see you just as much as you've waited for me, he said in a hoarse voice as he held back his emotions. The sentence instantly created a wave of applause and sobs that merged in the cold night air. Frankfurt fan Lena Muller, 23, said, "I didn't just come to see Genie. I came to feel the moment where he touched European soil as himself, not just as part of BTS. And tonight, it felt real." In a segment of a show titled Moonlight Talk, Jin honestly revealed that he was worried about whether he would still be remembered by the army outside of Korea after a long absence. "I was afraid no one would wait, but tonight you guys proved me wrong," he said. With teary eyes, the response from the European media has been incredible. Dutch TV station RTL Boulevard even cut the evening broadcast to show the crowd welcoming Jin live. They called Jin's presence a global cultural event that blurs the line between music and diplomacy. Not only that, a number of cultural analysts from Leiden University highlighted this phenomenon as an example of the power of South Korea's cultural capital in influencing European society without conventional pathways. The most symbolic thing happened when thousands of purple balloons were released into the sky as Jin closed his performance by bowing deeply for almost a full minute. A giant LED message then lights up. This night belongs to Seekjin. With all this excitement, Amsterdam is no longer just a historic city with classic canals. He has become a silent witness that the Hallyu Wave does not just belong to Korea or Asia, but already belongs to the world. And Jin, with his characteristic calmness, becomes his emotional ambassador. The question is now, after Amsterdam, where will Jin's steps continue? And further than that, what exactly is the emotional mission that he wants to bring through Run Seekjin EP? This tour? Is he building a new identity outside of BTS? Or is he insisting that he never really left the public's heart? One thing is certain. What is happening in Amsterdam is not just a concert or a welcome. It was a collective affirmation that BTS's Jin had planted something deep in the hearts of his fans. Not just because of his fame, but because of the emotional honesty he offers in every presence. For the readers who followed this news, how did you react to the incredible warmth shown by the people of Amsterdam to Jin? Is this evidence that the power of emotions can transcend cultural and linguistic boundaries? Or is this a signal that Jin is heading towards a greater future than ever before? Please write your opinion in the comments, and do not forget to subscribe so as not to miss the continuation of the emotional tour of Run Seekjin EP tour in the following cities. Because this story is far from over. But after the euphoria subsided and the cheers began to replace with replays on social media, one question arose that could not be avoided by anyone who watched these events from a distance. Did all this really happen? Or are we witnessing a grand spectacle designed to drive public perception emotionally and en masse? It is important to note that most of the documentation regarding Jin's welcome in Amsterdam first circulated through platforms such as TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Snippets of short videos, fan cries, to highlights of Jin's her-looking face-all went viral in a matter of minutes. But that's exactly where the tipping point is. When a grand narrative is built on a collection of content that is fast-paced, biased, and fragmented, can we still call it fact? It is worth asking, is there European mainstream media that comprehensively covers this incident outside of shows as late as in the entertainment segment? Are there any independent confirmations from non-fans official agencies or media regarding the number of spectators, logistical impact, or economic influence of Jin's arrival to Amsterdam? If most of the reports come from social media whose users are fans themselves, how can we ensure that the information circulating is not a collective bias born of group euphoria? Criticism of K-pop media sensationalism is not new. For a long time, pop culture analysts have warned that the Korean entertainment industry has a highly centralized information distribution system. In many cases, the narrative formed by entertainment agencies like HYB will be repeated and reinforced by fan accounts, social media, and pop news channels without in-depth verification. This does not mean that everything that is said is not true, but it is a strong enough reason for us to remain vigilant and question: who is really in control of this narrative? Is it possible that the entire show of the genie's welcome at the airport, the widespread poster, to the video of the purple balloon released into the night sky, has been planned cinematically to arouse emotions and maximize the viral moment? Or is it a genuine reaction from the global community that has indeed missed the figure of Seekjin in the long pause of his career? Furthermore, if this is really part of a branding strategy, then it is worth reflecting. To what extent are we as a public ready to allow our emotions to be manipulated by narratives that have been curated in such a way? Are we mature enough to distinguish which are authentic experiences and which are perceptual fabrications? In today's digital world, fact and fiction are often no longer separated by a clear line. We are presented with images of Jin waving, but not all videos show the full context. Does he greet thousands of people? Or is it just dozens of fans gathered in one narrow spot that is dramatically framed by the camera? Drone footage from a distance may show crowds, but does it prove enough that Amsterdam is really exploding because of its presence? More importantly, do we want to believe because this is BTS's Jin, or because this narrative is indeed built so that we don't have time to doubt it? These questions are not to belittle the power of fandom or ignore ARMY's sincerity around the world, but precisely because the enthusiasm is so great and overwhelming, there needs to be room to re-examine. Are we being part of an authentic collective experience? Or are we simply going with the flow driven by a very smart and measurable marketing strategy? In a digital atmosphere filled with algorithms, moving visuals, and tearful narratives, we are required to be an audience that is not only emotionally sensitive, but intellectually rigorous as well. Not everything that is viral is true. Not everything that makes us overwhelmed is a fact. And not everything that seems dramatic is purely without the intervention of industry narratives as consumers of information, especially in the realm of K-pop, which is known to be highly visual and emotional. We need to ask questions such as, who produces this content? What's the purpose? Has anyone benefited directly from this viral news? How did the independent media react to this event? We are not saying that this incident is not real. We only emphasize that digital reality and factual reality are not always identical. And in cases like this, when global attention is directed toward one iconic figure, it's important to remain reflective. We also need to highlight how the K-pop industry, in general, establishes a pattern of deeply emotional attachment between artists and fans, often to the point where the distinction between support and uncritical idolization becomes blurred. Is Run Seekjin EP? Is the tour really a celebration of the artistry of a Seekjin, or is it part of an effort to restore his image after his military service, to cement his place in a competitive global industry? Skepticism is not a form of hatred. Rather, it is the highest form of respect for the truth. And in an era when emotional manipulation is becoming an effective marketing tool, the only bulwark we can rely on is our own consciousness. TO readers, we ask deep questions. If tomorrow came the fact that the number of spectators who greeted Jin in Amsterdam was only a third of what was claimed, would you feel cheated? If the entire footage turns out to be part of an official production that has been set up from the start, do you still feel the same magic? And most importantly, do you still believe what you see on the screen? Or do you begin to question the narrative behind it? In conclusion, we would like to emphasize that the information we present in this article is abstracted from various sources, including TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and several entertainment media that prioritize speed over verification. Therefore, we invite you not to swallow the information raw.
Ask, sue, verify.
Ask again. Because the truth does not always come in a beautiful and moving form. Sometimes it comes in the form of doubt. Thank you for reading and pondering with us. And don't forget to subscribe to stay connected with a variety of more critical and informative viewpoints about the global entertainment world. Let's be an audience that is not only entertained, but also enlightened.